Influx of more people, so why don't we kick this off. My name is Brian Krantz. I work for Cadena Regional Medical Center. I'm a paramedic, I'm an RN, and I'm also the EMS instructor with the hospital. So we teach first responder and EMT courses. Mouth, okay? So any hole in your head is a possible route for a bloodborne pathogen to get into, right? But in addition to that, any broken skin. So the idea is you might have a little cut on your hand, you don't think it's that big of a deal, and usually it's not. But if you have a situation where you come across and come in contact with a bloodborne pathogen, that little opening in your skin could provide an avenue for that organism to get into you. So a smear of contaminated blood or body fluids to the eyes can result in a transmission, right? It's anything that gets into any mucous membrane or through your skin. So, they're microorganisms. Bloodborne pathogens are just microorganisms. They could be a virus, they could be a bacteria, they could be a fungus, right? But the idea is they cause disease. And guess what? They're carried in blood. Bet you didn't see that one coming, right? Okay, so the idea is there's many different ones that are out there. Malaria, syphilis, brucellosis, all different kinds of bugs that can exist in our blood. However, hepatitis B and HIV, HBV and HIV, are the two diseases that are, you know, I'm sure you guys have heard OSHA 400 times today, right? This is what OSHA addresses in the bloodborne pathogen standard. So if you make practices or you engage in practices that will protect you from these, it'll pretty much protect you from anything, okay? Except bears. Bears can kill you. All right? So let's keep that in mind. So let's talk about some of the pathogens that you might come across. Hepatitis A is a form of food poisoning. So, you know, when you hear people say, oh, I got the stomach flu, it may not be the stomach flu. You may have picked up hepatitis A. And there's a great, it's such a wonderful way that you can pick this up. The oral fecal route. Doesn't that sound lovely? But that's usually what it is. You find these in restaurants, right? Because somebody in the restaurant has used the bathroom and they didn't wash their hands properly. Okay? That's how it can get transmitted. What a lovely way to get it, right? You're like, oh, that's good. I was a paramedic. My wife and I moved back up here in 2013. We've been out of Minnesota for 35 years. I was a paramedic for 7 years down in the Orlando area. Busy, right? We ran about 12 to 15,000 calls a year. And when I first started, we were 24 hours in the truck. So subsequently, we were hitting a lot of different restaurants, fast food restaurants. In the 7 years that I was a paramedic down there, I got food poisoning 5 times, which sucks. But then again, we're paramedics, so we can just treat ourselves, right? It's like, I don't feel so good. All right, let's get in the back, let's get an IV going, we'll start some fluids, take some stuff so you don't vomit, you know, that type of thing. But, so usually when you hear about these types of things, people getting sick, there are certainly other bugs too, like salmonella, we've heard about that. But a lot of times, you know, it's because people aren't washing their hands properly after they go to the bathroom. You get a flu-like illness for about 2 or 3 days, of course, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, all that. And the problem with that is if it's happening so much, you can very quickly get dehydrated, right? So one of the things I tell people is if you get one of these, like food poisoning, as much as it sounds like a bad idea, you need to keep the fluids going back in. Even if you're drinking them and then throwing them up, eventually you'll start to keep them down, okay? You gotta get fluids back into your system because you're gonna dehydrate pretty quickly. And what I like to say is do half Gatorade and half water because you need some electrolytes as well. And that same mix works really well in the summer too when you guys are out. I was offered this job in August and I was working on a big landscaping project at my house and I'm like, I gotta get this finished. So I just went at it, and I thought, I'm gonna do a little testing here. So for one day, all I did was I just drank water, and I put like literally close to 3 gallons of water down over the course of the day. That night, I got the cramps, the stomach cramps, and the leg cramps, because I wasn't replacing the electrolytes, okay? So that's why you wanna mix the Gatorade with it. Hepatitis B A is pretty benign. You know, usually you get A, you'll have it for a few days. You're not going to, you know, I hesitate to say you'll feel crappy, but you'll have it for a few days. You're not going to feel very good, but usually you get over it. Hepatitis B is a different creature. First off, hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver, and a lot of times that's where this thing is going to cause the most problems. This is an extremely tough organism. And it says, can remain viable for up to 7 days in a drop of dried blood. Because what the organism does is it encapsulates itself. And so it literally can, within 7 days, if you somehow get that into your system, that organism can reactivate, okay, and start reproducing again. So, severe liver damage, cirrhosis, liver cancer, and possibly death, okay? It's a nasty, nasty disease. So hepatitis B symptoms, we got ladies, late ones. Come on in. Have a seat. Sign in. That's okay. Go ahead and sit first. Turn around, pat your heads, stand on one foot, bark like a dog. You won't be coming late to the next one, I'll tell you that. All right. So, hepatitis A again is more foodborne, and it's more like food poisoning. Hepatitis B, very robust organism. You may not have symptoms initially, okay? Or you may develop some mild flu-like symptoms. That's your first indication that you may have it, okay? Anybody that has hepatitis B, an active infection, any of the blood, saliva, or any other body fluids may contain the hepatitis B virus. Anything. So if you get the infection or a person has it, they're just hot with it, okay? Any body fluid can contain HBV. It can affect anyone. It is preventable, okay? I gave you all the bad things about it, but here's some good things. You can pretty easily prevent getting infection from it. There is no cure at this point, but that is why prevention is so important. And the single most important thing you can do to protect yourself against HPV is to get a vaccination. There is no cure, but you can get a vaccination. And what it is it's 3 shots. You get one at 1 week, 2 weeks, and I think it's 6 months. Anybody here had the hepatitis B shots? Okay, so you guys know, right? That's it, you're good for life, okay? And it's pretty cheap insurance, especially if you're involved in these kinds of activities where you have a little bit higher risk of exposure, right? Potential exposure, I should say. Hepatitis C, similar to B in that it's a liver problem, right? And it is capable of killing people. The big problem with C was, and there's hepatitis D, there's E, there's F, there's all kinds of hepatitis. Most of them are variants of C, so we stop at C. Because otherwise, you guys are setting up bunk beds and I'm talking for 12 hours. So we don't want that. But the thing is, with hepatitis C, you know, it really started to get out into the population through blood transfusions. Because we didn't have a way to screen, well, I say we, I'm not part of that problem. Okay, let's just be right up front. I didn't contribute to the hepatitis C issue. But I mean, the medical field, there was not a way to screen for it. And so a lot of people got them through blood transfusion. I have a friend of mine that's hep C positive. He got it 12 years before he started showing symptoms. And then he discovered he had it. Now he's taking, you know, they're coming out with, you may see, they talk about retroviral drugs that they have out now. Because antibiotics don't work on viruses, so the new drugs, he's been taking the drugs now, he's had no symptoms. So that's good, you know, they're coming out with us. But it's similar, but a lot of people don't know they have it. And of course, no current vaccine for hepatitis C, it's still under development, all right? Those are the hepatitis bugs. Let's talk about HIV, because that's the other one as part of the bloodborne standard. Human immunodeficiency virus, it is not very stable. This can degrade pretty quickly. In perfect conditions in a laboratory, it remains viable for about 3 days. In imperfect conditions, 18 minutes. in the presence of ultraviolet light out in the sun, it breaks down very quickly, okay? So, that being said, however, it does attack the immune system and it causes AIDS. Because you have HIV doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get AIDS, okay? AIDS is the end result of an untreated HIV infection, okay? There is no vaccine right now, although there is currently one in human trials. That being said, many people carry this virus again for years without any symptoms, okay? AIDS, HIV attacks your immune system, right? The human immunodeficiency. So that's what it does. It knocks down your immune system and it leaves you open to these opportunistic infections. That's what's going to kill you. HIV is not going to kill you. But the bugs that HIV lets in and lets flourish in your body, that's what's going to kill you, okay? So, however, at this point we have multitudes of people, thousands of people that have been living for decades now, right? Think about Magic Johnson, who was a pro basketball player. He was one of the first people that publicly came out and said, I'm HIV HIV positive. That's probably 30 years ago, almost. Yeah. And he's doing fine, you know? So these new medications that are coming out, the drugs have fewer side effects. You know, still, the reality of the situation is you're going to be taking 10, 12, 15 drugs a day for the rest of your life, but they seem to hold it at bay, okay? So any of these, if you come in contact with infected human blood or other potentially infectious fluids, and this talks about semen, vaginal secretions, saliva, or actually any body fluid that is visibly contaminated with blood. Okay, and especially for those of you that are working in the laundry or in housekeeping or something like that, right? This is where you can run across that. Sexual contact, certainly. Needle sharing. Okay. Nowadays we hear about it a lot in the news, right? The opioid epidemic. All right. The unfortunate thing is that someone that is any kind of intravenous drugs, they're not really concerned about, well, let's see, I got to get up today and I got to run, and then I'll come back and take my supplements, and then I'll shoot up, and then maybe I can get over to the gym and spend a couple of hours, right? They're not concerned about their own health. They're concerned about getting more drugs. And the other problem is that usually when all of your resources are going to get more drugs, you'll start sharing needles or saving needles, right? And so that's how these get transmitted, is through the sharing of needles. This is probably more in line with what you guys might run across. Accidental punctures from contaminated needles, broken glass, anything like that, right? Accidental punctures. You don't mean to do it. It's not like you're going to clock in a day and go, oh, that's right, it's a 26. I got to pick up HBV today through a contaminated needle. No, you don't. So what you have to do is there's always an accident that can happen. We have to try to minimize that possibility. And then, of course, any contact between broken or damaged skin or mucous membranes and blood or body fluids. Okay? Those are your two paths. So unbroken skin, or let's just say something that will break the skin. Either a needle, a sharp, and when I say a sharp, it's anything that can break your skin. Does that make sense? Could be a broken ashtray, could be the edge of a pop can. I mean, it could be anything, right? So, unbroken skin is going to be your best barrier against these pathogens. Unbroken skin. That's why it's so important when you guys are getting ready to come to work. If you got a cut or something, put a Band-Aid on it. Because if nothing else, the Band-Aid's going to keep all the normal funk out of it, right? And then you have a layer there. You reestablish a barrier over that break in your skin. Standard precautions mean that you treat all body substances as potentially infected. Anything you come across. There's many people out there that don't even know they have a bloodborne disease, right? So they're just going through what they normally do in life. It's not like they walk around with little signs taped to their back that say bloodborne pathogen on board, right? That type of thing. So, how are we going to do this? We're going to do this through what's called engineering controls. And basically, it's protocols that you guys are going to use in the task of doing your jobs to minimize your exposure. It's equipment that your employer may provide, sharps containers, gloves, bags, this type of thing, right? And we will be getting into an ongoing conversation with management and see if we can, get some of these things. If they're deficient in some areas, we'll fill in the holes. So gloves, sharps containers, sinks, alcohol-based cleaners. Okay, if you can't wash your hands, then think about the alcohol-based cleaners, right? They only work though if you use them and you use them correctly, right? Does that make sense? Thinking about it is not going to make it happen. So if you find sharps, the sharps get disposed of in a special sharps container. All right? If you run across body fluids on a surface that needs to be cleaned, you need to glove up. Okay? And it wouldn't hurt if you especially if it's blood. I mean, if it's body fluids and you don't see blood on it, that's one thing. If it's blood, double glove. Doesn't hurt, right? You guys may have access to commercially prepared disinfectants, or, and I've got this is actually wrong, it's 5 parts water to 1 part bleach. Figure a quart of bleach into a gallon of water. That's a close enough approximation, okay? That's a fairly strong solution, but stop and think. It's contact time. And you work in the resort business, right? We can't spray something and go, all right, well, I'll just let that sit there for 24 hours and then come back because I'll know we're good on the contact time. No, you need to reduce that. So the 5 to 1, you could literally start on this end of the table, spray the table down. By the time you're done spraying, come back here and start wiping it up. And it's at 30 seconds to 1 minute where that solution is usually effective to disinfect, okay? Or like I said, if you have some other type of commercial disinfectant that you're already using. Spill kits. Spill kits are available if we have a large issue that needs to be cleaned up. And you can see the kits have, they've got the gloves, there's usually absorbent material that you can lay down over the spill that's going to soak up the majority of it. If there's sharps, you can see there's like a little dustpan and a paddle to scrape the stuff into there. There's a biohazard bag to dispose of, and then these are usually wipes. That's probably wipes for your hand, and then these are wipes to decontaminate the surface once you've got the majority of the material off of it, okay? Protect yourself, protect your family, protect the public. That's what you should do, right? In that order. Does that make sense? You are the single most important person to worry about protecting, and then all of these fall underneath that. So now what we're going to do is you guys have been sitting for a few minutes, we're going to get you up and get you moving. So we're going to do a little glove exercise about putting on and taking off gloves. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to take off a pair of gloves, okay? Actually, you know what, we got a bunch of larges here, so I'll just do those. I know. Here's the deal about putting on gloves. Don't put on gloves like you're getting ready to do microsurgery out in the field. They don't have to be a second skin, okay? And you'll see the reason for that shortly. These are a little snug for me, but because like I say, because we have more of them, I'll put these on. And the other trick too to putting gloves on, keep your fingers moving as you pull, right? Because it looks nothing worse when you got like the gloves are flopped over and you're like doing this. Okay, so now I have the gloves on. I still look dorky, but you know, I managed to get through most of it. What you want to do is take the gloves off. You're going to take one hand to the other and you grab the gloves down here. The concept is dirty inside is clean. So dirty to dirty, clean to clean. Okay? So the reason we don't grab the gloves like this is now we have dirty to clean. You grab the glove to glove like this and you pull the glove off and ball it up in your hands. Okay? Now if you got a bunch of stuff on it, don't be squeezing it too vigorously because we don't want, you know, stuff going everywhere. Okay? Then the next thing you want to do is get your fingers inside. Again, we're clean to clean. And you just pull this glove off. Now, if you're having trouble getting it off your fingers, right, and you don't do that, what you can do is this glove is inside out. So clean to clean. and then you drop it into a wastebasket, and what do you think you do immediately afterwards?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Either in a sink, or of course, if you don't have access to running water, then use the alcohol-based, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you guys come up and put on gloves, and I'm gonna watch you take them off. I need one volunteer right now, though. Come on up here. Because we're gonna do things a little different. What we're gonna do is, actually, if you wanna stay in front, grab a pair. We're gonna introduce a little variant into this. We're going to use what's called a blood analog, okay? So what I'm going to do is go ahead and choose a pair of gloves, whatever you think fit. And I'm going to contaminate the gloves with this. That changes the equation, because now the gloves are going to be slippery, okay? And she's going to take the gloves off, and we'll watch, and all of you are going to go through this. And then when she gets done taking the gloves off, I'm going to lick her hands and see if I can taste it. You don't want to do that?
No.
Okay, all right. All right, maybe we'll back off on that, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to contaminate, and then all of you guys are going to do it. And what you can do, now that you're done, is you get to contaminate everybody else.
That's what I was hoping I got.
See, there was a reason for that. So let's watch through the process. Put up probably a nickel-sized, about like that. Go ahead and smear it around on the gloves. Come on over here. Okay.
So
Yep.
you grab it like this.
Grab it on the outside, pull it inside out. You can work your hands a little bit too if it's easier. Now ball it up. There you go. Get that hand away. Slide your fingers inside. Now here's that's fine. That's fine. But what I see a lot of people do too, and I want to make sure I just show them. When you start it here, don't do this. Don't pinch it with your thumb. You got to keep your fingers underneath this. Okay? And then just pull it off. And if you need to grab it again to get it clear, that's fine, because you're clean to clean. And then just drop it in and wash your hands. Okay? Let's line up. Start a line here. Aaron, you can stand right here. Contaminate people.
Contaminate people.
So choose the, and like I say, whatever glove size you use, maybe consider going up one size.
Do you want medium too?
Yeah.
Helen? We'll get you guys going, because it takes a while to get these things on. They're tight. Do you want to go bigger? Take that off and try another one?
Yeah, fine. Okay, go for the large ones.
Nope, that's
Those are small. Go for the large ones. Keep working your hands. Keep moving your hands when you're putting them in there. There you go. Yeah, that made a big difference, didn't it? You just dropped it right in there. Look like you're scrubbing in for surgery now. Flip it around. I think you got your thumb.
No, when I'm doing this with the laundry, I don't have any.
Plus, you don't have a line of people standing behind you waiting to glove up either.
But it kind of helps to know what size glove you should be wearing too, so remember that.
All right.
Okay, so
About that much. Smear it around a little bit and come on over to me.
you want to jump in here?
Okay, there you go. So grab it. See, it changes things, doesn't it? Once you get
You want a
that,
different
that
glove?
wetness. There you go. There you go. Pull it. Keep pulling it loose. Get your hand away. Now ball that up. Good. Nice job. Slide your fingers in there. Pull it down. Pull it off. Drop it in the
Really
wastebasket.
get it on.
Perfect. Nice job. Now wash your hands. Right down the hall to the, I think down the hall to the right
You need
is
to
the
go wash your
restroom.
hands.
Yeah, go wash your hands.
Here.
No?
Okay, grab onto one of them. There you go, just like that. Pull it down. Yeah, you can do that too, or ball it up. That's either or. And then
You're
slide
thinking
your
about if
finger
you're
inside
clean.
there.
Something, I don't want to,
Nice job.
you know.
There you go, perfect. Now wash your hands.
So do we do this with like people now as well?
Grab it up. Anything.
Okay, now those are.
Any possible body substance you should always glove up. You can grab that because it's clean to clean, right? Okay, now wash your hands.
You don't like that?
No. Sometimes you gotta move your hand, move your hand a little bit. There you go, ball it up. Slide your fingers inside of that one. There you go, pull it down. And you can grab it again. Yeah, there you go,
Thing is, you
perfect,
don't
nice
want it
job.
so skin
Well
tight
done.
that you can't
Okay.
get on and off.
Oh, you're waiting to be
Oh,
contaminated.
sorry. I lost the contamination.
She's never gonna be able to work at the buffet table. That's the way it works.
It's a good thing.
Right, exactly.
It's a reason I don't work in food and beverage.
There you go. Nice job. All right.
See, it's harder than you think.
Yeah.
Okay, ball it up in that hand.
And rub it in there.
Okay, get your fingers
Rub
under the
it in.
cuff there. There you go. Turn around. You got it down.
That
Grab
side?
it, pull it loose. Good, nice job.
No, hey, you have contamination? Okay.
Okay, come on, you gotta come over here. I gotta see. You don't have to show her anything.
Yeah, this
Gotta
is
put your hands
the only
up.
thing I'm qualified to do.
That's right. She was extensively trained this morning. Okay? Keep going, or you can just ball it up in it, but that's cool. It's going into a waste container.
You know what time?
The nice thing about balling it up is that it's doubled up. You know, you're doubling the layer up. Good job. Go wash your hands. Wow, you're just like, you don't give them to me. I don't want to touch those funky things. Okay, nice job. Ball it up. Ball that one up. Okay, now slide it off. Good. Nice job. Okay, good, good.
Why
Nice.
do we have to use sugar-free?
Because we first started doing this in Florida,
Oh,
and down there you gotta use sugar-free because cockroaches, ants, whatever, you know, they'll just get in everything and ball that up. Nice, nice job. 2 fingers inside, pull it down and out.
so have you ever done
Perfect.
that before?
Good job.
With the gloves?
No.
So that's good training after you've worked here all these years.
Right.
Go, good job. Ball it up, just kind of grab it so it's not flopping around. There you go, nice. Okay.
No.
Yeah, they are.
Cool, you can grab that and pull it off in that hand because it's clean to clean. Perfect. Nice job.
Is my work
Go
done?
wash. Your work is done. Golf clap for golf clap.
Such a
For
good
Aaron.
job.
What we normally do, while everybody's waiting to get back, what I normally do is I have hand lotion that I hand out to people prior to doing the gloving exercise, and I say, go ahead and put this all over your hands because it'll help you get the gloves off easier. So we go through the gloving exercise, they go wash, they come back, and then I get out the black light because it's fluorescent. And it's not to bust people's chops, but it's to show you where the problem areas are, okay, when you're washing your hands. And a lot of it is around the nail beds and the creases of the fingers and the knuckles. And especially, you know, you guys that are working outside, you may have some calluses. That's where it's going to be harder to clean those off, that type of thing. And I've had a couple people come back and I'm like, did you even wash your hands? Because they look like, you know, they're like Mickey Mouse gloves are glowing in the dark. Can't have that. Okay. So we'll wait for everybody to, I think everybody's done, right? See, I had like 22 people last time, so it took forever. I think we're back. Okay, let's move on then. We're clipping along here. So proper hand washing obviously is the most important way that you prevent contracting these diseases, right? Sharps is certainly one thing. You don't want a puncture in your body, but if you get it on your skin and your skin is unbroken, you still have a barrier there. But now what we have to do is get it off your skin, right? Because if you don't wash it off your skin adequately, and then later on in the day you're like, God, my eye itches. Well, guess what? Now you got it, right? Or now you can get it. So, let's talk about hand washing. And I want to talk about a little bit of misinformation. You know, you know how we've gone through this period where everything's antimicrobial soap. Everything's got to be antimicrobial, okay? That's nonsense. The act of using any kind of soap and doing this to your hands under running water is what cleans the bugs off, okay? The problem is with antimicrobial soap is that what we're doing is we're continuously flushing these chemicals out into our groundwater systems, right, at low levels. And the bugs that are out there, the pathogens, are exposed to these constantly. So what do? They develop a resistance. It's the same thing with antibiotics. You know, for years, it was like, Doc, this hurts. Here, take some antibiotics. We were given antibiotics for people that have viral infections, which antibiotics do absolutely nothing for. And what happened was people would take antibiotics, and they would take them until they feel better, and then they're like, well, I still got a half a thing of antibiotics, so I'll hold on to them. And then after 2 years, it's like, well, I better get rid of these. Down the toilet they go. Now we're flushing antibiotics into the groundwater too. That's why we have some superbug issues. So what you want to do is you do want to use soap, because soap makes water more effective. Start off palm to palm, right? Palm to palm, then the backs of the hands, okay? And what I like to do is get like this and then shift and do the backs of this hand. Go between the fingers, and I'll do this and then I'll shift over one. Because stop and think, you're cleaning one side of the fingers, now you're cleaning the other side of the fingers, okay? The fingertips, like this, into the palms. Step 5 is the thumbs and the wrists. Because as we're doing all this, where are the thumbs? They're just sitting out here being all funky, covered with nasty stuff, not getting any attention paid to them. So do your thumbs and your wrists, and then the last thing you want to do is do this. And get those nail beds cleaned, okay? That's the important part. You can do all of this in about 30 seconds, really. It doesn't, you don't have to be in there. It's like, are they still washing their hands? Do you have any skin left? All right, so obviously if you can't immediately wash your hands, then go with an alcohol-based. But then, of course, as soon as you can, wash your hands, okay? The alcohol is a stopgap measure. It's not the definitive way to clean your hands, but it'll do it in the time being. Those of you that are working with any sort of waste or laundry, never compact trash or linens with your hands or your feet, okay? There's nothing worse than reaching. We're talking about significant, you got a towel that's soaked with blood, somebody that's had a bloody nose, or you got a washcloth that's soaked with blood. Go ahead and double bag it, okay? So let's say you've been exposed. You have had an exposure. And an exposure doesn't necessarily mean, it may mean that you've gotten blood on your skin, okay, or fluids on your skin. That's considered an exposure. An exposure is not necessarily that it's in your body, it's just that you have an unprotected exposure to it. So what do? Well, the first thing you do is wash. I talked about taking about 30 seconds to wash just a couple moments ago. This you're going to spend a couple of minutes. You're going to scrub that area really well, okay? Now, that being said, let's not get so energetic that we break the skin in the process of cleaning the skin, okay? So it's like, especially if you got nails, let's not be doing this while we're scrubbing it. Use the flat of your hand, okay, to do it. You wash the area, but then you need to report the incident, okay? Because there's a process in place, okay, that if you think if you had an exposure, different companies have different processes that they use. For example, me as a paramedic, if I'm exposed, usually what we do as healthcare workers is we go in, immediately they do a blood draw. And they're going to start running some tests to see if anything shows up, okay? Again, having been vaccinated for Hep B, there's less of a concern about that. Now, there are new drugs that can prevent HIV even though you've had a significant exposure. But the thing is, you need to get those drugs in the first 24 hours. So that's why it's so important to report an exposure, okay? Don't feel like at this point it's like, oh, I'm an idiot because I did this. That doesn't play into this anymore. You have an exposure. This could potentially affect the rest of your life. So act on it, report it, get an incident report started or whatever you need to do, whatever the mechanisms are, and follow that process out, okay? So, your risk can be reduced tremendously if you follow the precautions that we've talked about today, all of the time, okay? That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is hand washing is the easiest and most effective way to protect yourself against bloodborne pathogens, okay? And finally, use your brain, okay? Questions from anybody? Really, I just filled you up with that much knowledge. You're so satisfied. Well, thank you very much for your attention. Those are the 2 of you that came in late. I'll just run through the first part real quick with you guys. Thank you guys. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.